The last time I heard the flute, I was ready for it. I acted. I rushed to the window, hopped through, and began to move towards the pantry around the corner. And the notes moved. They preceded me. They were in the kitchen now. I went down the steps, and the notes descended. They were at the foot of the stairway. When I got to the foot, they were out in the grassy clearing. I began to advance towards the sawmill, but the notes receded behind me, heading for the river. I heard Jessie's voice from the veranda, concerned, hysterical. "Milton, where are you? Come back! Don't follow it! Come back!" I uttered a quavering laugh, and standing where I was, looked up at her. "No, I won't follow it. I'm coming up now, no fear. But I've got the hang of it. We're going to balk our nasty friends, the musky ectoplasms. Wait and see." I spoke idiotically, hardly realizing that the flute was fading on the chilly air. It trailed off the river, moved upstream, and then the old silence came down on the moonlit scene once more, oppressive, watching. We had moved further on in the story of
My Bones and My Flute.
When I returned upstairs, an argument at once began, and Mr. Nevinson had to shout at us before there was order. "It's no use behaving like this," he said, flushed and frowning. "We won't achieve anything by squabbling. Nell, come back here." His wife had turned off in a huff and was moving along the veranda towards the pantry door. "Do you hear me? Come back here." She came back, sulky and haughty. "What is it? I try to make a sensible suggestion and you shout me down," she complained. "If you don't wish to listen to me, you've only got to say so, Ralph." "That will do. Sit down and compose yourself and try to listen. We have heard enough suggestions from you and everybody else. We have no time for further suggestions of any sort. We are going to act on the plan Milton has told us about." "I know. It's always Milton. He must be the only one among us with any intelligence." "Mother, shut up! Shut up! Sit down!" Jessie was screaming. "We haven't time to waste. Didn't you hear what Daddy said? Sit down and listen." Mrs. Nevinson sat down. Rayburn near the hammock stared from one to the other of us, bewildered. For the next few minutes, Mr. Nevinson explained what he had decided was to be done. We had reached a point, he said, where exceptional risks must be taken, and though it seemed a foolhardy plan, we were going to set out within a short while on an exhibition into the jungle to make an attempt to find the remains of Mirror Woman. His wife began to speak, but he silenced her with a bark and went on to deal with the details of the proposed trip. He ended up by saying, "Everything may depend, of course, upon whether Milton's conjecture is correct concerning this manifestation. Milton thinks that the flute will keep on sounding at brief intervals for the next 5 or 6 hours, and that if we are ready to follow where it leads, there is every hope that we shall be taken to the spot where the bones and the flute are buried. Milton's theory, and I am inclined to endorse it, is that a crisis having been created by our experiments with the candles and the petrol, Mirror Woman is making his last desperate attempt to communicate his wishes to us, and is appealing to us to hurry, if we would save him and ourselves from utter and final transformation into whatever it is we can feel is lurking in the offing now, threatening us. It will be no easy matter making such an excursion as we are planning. It will mean probably having to cut our way through sections of the bush, when, as we suspect, we are compelled to leave the track. and there may be other dangers of which we are so far ignorant. But it can't be helped. We are desperate people, remember that. We must leave nothing undone that might possibly aid us in keeping off what menaces us. That is why we have to take this rash step." He then asked us to go inside and get dressed, and when we were dressed to return out here on the veranda. He was so impressive that even his wife's sulky manner had faded. She rose and went inside with Jessie silently, her face rigid and strained. As Mr. Nevinson and I and Rayburn entered the dining room, we began to sense a tightening in the atmosphere and a throbbing, and with an exclamation I fumbled out the matches I had slipped into the pocket of my pyjamas a short while before. I struck one, telling Rayburn to hurry back to the veranda and get a candle. "We've got out of range of the lighted candles," I said. "We mustn't forget that a naked flame is essential in our vicinity." I scratched another match as the previous one began to go out, and then Rayburn came back with 2 candles, and I lit them. The disturbance had died down the instant I had struck the first match, and now that the candles flamed into life, the air steadied itself, though the heavy apprehensiveness persisted as before, threatening and ugly, a continued reminder that any relaxation or complacency on our part would be a serious mistake. Twice during the next hour the flute made itself heard, but we proceeded calmly with our preparations for the expedition. Rayburn and I had to make 3 trips to the sawmill storeroom. We took Dietz's lanterns with us as a safeguard against further aerial trouble. By 3:30, we were ready on the northern veranda, and were overseeing and discussing the haversacks of food and the spades and cutlasses which stood in a clump on the floor, when the flute again sounded out in the clearing. Except for Jessie, who stared nervously, there was no alarm. A taut calm descended on us. We spoke now in lowered voices and only at rare intervals. There was no argument in us. "You notice it's irregular and frequent now," I commented. "The last one was only 15 minutes ago. The interval before that was 7 minutes. Mr. Nevinson nodded. He said, "We must move off at the next one." When the notes ceased, Rayburn and I went off with 2 of the lanterns to see about the boat. We returned in less than 5 minutes, for the craft was just as we had left it when last we had used it for one of our brief outings in the river 2 days ago. We could have packed the implements and the haversacks into it in advance, but we wanted to take no chances, for who knew, the flute might take it into its head to conduct us in some new direction, and we had to prepare for such an emergency. As Rayburn and I rejoined the others in the veranda, Mr. Nevinson told us to sling on our haversacks and make preparations to leave in accordance with what he had told us earlier. In silence we obeyed, Rayburn and I, and Mr. Nevinson, each picking up a spade in addition to the lantern and cutlass we had already carried. At a signal from Mr. Nevinson, agreed upon before, we moved off towards the kitchen steps, our foot treads sounding loud and solemn on the floor, for we all wore thick, heavy boots. It might have been some sacred religious procession. We had agreed to leave the lights burning in the cottage. The moon was overhead, and this side of the cottage was in deep shadow. We paused at the top of the kitchen steps, Mr. Nevinson and I in front, Behind Mr. Nevinson Rayburn, behind me Jessie, and behind Jessie her mother. We stood there, listening to the night. All the old sounds were there, but coming to us through the uncertain veil that had been drawn between us and the normal. The river bubbled at intervals and gurgled. The frogs chirruped as the whim took them, one near the sawmill, one amidst the shrubs that grew near to the water's edge, one farther off near the silent logies. The old fireflies arced and crisscrossed, but feebly, reduced by the moonlight to less than half their usual brilliance. I could hear Jessie breathing behind me. Once she touched my elbow, and the thick khaki material of the shorts I wore could not muffle completely the ticking of my watch. A brave, lusty ticking, a thread of sanity, commonplace, and inspiring hope. No fantasy troubled it. A spade, I think, it must have been Mr. Nevinson's, made a clank as it was shifted slightly. It must have collided with the facing of the door. I heard Mrs. Nevinson sigh. My host murmured, "Now we go." The notes of the flute rose from near the foot of the steps. We began marching towards the climax of
My bones and my flute.